Welcome back on the AM show. I did hint before we took that short break that we'll be heading to Korle Bu. We're going to have an interaction now with the CEO of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Opoku Ware Ampomah. Doc, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining the conversation this morning.
Good morning, Benjamin.
It's good to have you. So in recent days, we've been very concerned on the back of what we heard, that there were some moves to increase the cost of dialysis at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. Then we heard from the likes of the Komfuanochi Teaching Hospital, among others, saying they would maintain their prices. And then we heard from Korle Bu that, look, it is not our fault. It's because of the taxes on these products. But we hear today that in your latest release, you are rescinding on that decision and saying that you're going back to the final or the earlier costs. Just walk me through how we got here. And I have your statement. If you'll bear with me, I'll just read portions of it. It says, this is to inform the general public and our patients that a price review proposal presented by the renal dialysis unit is yet to receive consideration and approval by management of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. Any proposed fee will be forwarded to Parliament through the Ministry of Health for approval. It is only after the due parliamentary approval that any revised fees will be implemented. So let me ask you, that then means that the price restructuring is still on the table, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not to the same extent. So I think you asked a very good question. So let us walk through how we got here. So under normal circumstances, based on the cost of inputs, department will make proposals for adjustments in the fees or tariffs for any particular service that is being rendered. And in this case, the dialysis unit put in a proposal for a review of fees and charges. But internally, it will go to the head of the medical department, who will then review it and then to pass on to the Director of Medical Affairs, who reviews it and then brings it to the CEO, and then CEO tables it at the Central Management Team. And then once we are okay with that, board also approves, and then we send it through Ministry of Health to Parliament for approval. So at each stage, this proposal undergoes review and scrutinization, because we don't have to look at it just from the department's perspective, but we also look at in terms of our client base, affordability. So we have to have this kind of wider stakeholder engagement that would then help us to settle on a price which would enable us to at least break even, recover costs, and then also not overburden our patients. So, but unfortunately, this one was even yet to hit the Director of Medical Affairs desk. So unfortunately, somebody jumped the gun. So there was a bit of, as I said, jumping the gun there. And so that poster that Moses put up was rather premature, because the final figure has not even been settled on yet, because it's after the review process. We'll take it and up all the way to Parliament. And the Parliament also reviews and can decide to approve or to even amend it further. So that's the kind of process that we go through. So I would like to apologize to the public for any the fear and panic that this has caused, and we are doing the needful. But it must be also said that definitely the current tariff was set a couple of years ago, and definitely we know that there's a movement in prices, and therefore and our service is not immune from those variations. So definitely there has to be a review. But as to what quantum is what is yet to be determined.
Doc, you apologize for the fear and panic that this may have created. And I know it's a very tricky spot to be in. But the reality, too, is that with the tax exemptions that have been taken off some of the logistics that you use for these products, it means that cost has gone up for you, for your outfit. And, of course, it's been a number of years. Let's face the reality. Things cost a lot more. Right?
Okay, thank you very much. But I think that's also an erroneous impression that has been created, because there's no tax exemption has been taken off, no new taxes have been introduced on the medical consumables. But then, unfortunately, so in this instance, sometimes when people don't have complete information, sometimes they can create some of these distortions. Now, in this particular, usually what happens
just my apologies. Before you go on, we have heard that the PRO has stated that...
I wasn't referring to you. I wasn't referring to you.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
I'm just talking about how we got here. So I'm not blaming a particular, but what I'm saying is that in this particular instance, so let's say somebody at the renal unit, if you speak to somebody at the renal unit, he's going to tell you that in this particular instance, we paid for what do you call it? We paid duty on the consumables that we received, but it was because of a peculiar situation. It wasn't because anybody had taken off any waiver. What usually happens is that usually these consumables arrive by sea freight. So once the bill of lading is sent to us, we apply to the Ministry of Finance through the Ministry of Health, and they process to get a waiver. So that by the time the goods arrive, the waiver has been approved, and then we get a waiver, we get a consent, so we don't pay those. But then we had a peculiar situation this time because our stock level of consumables were low, and of course that had been occasioned because there were some contractual issues with the main supplier, and which were ironing out. So it took a while for this to get sorted, but we eventually got it sorted. But then, because of the urgency, these goods were air freighted, in, and so because we didn't want the service to run out, we needed to clear them quickly. And of course, the paperwork takes a while to go through, and so we're looking at the cost of storage at the airport with the demurrage. Because when your goods stay beyond a few
right.
weeks, it starts. So we're looking at the tax that we're going to pay versus the demurrage. Because we realize that looking at the time frame, we may actually end up paying more if we go for the waiver. So we decided to then just pay and get them cleared so that our patients can the services can resume. So that was what was done. So in this particular, it wasn't because we were denied any waiver or anybody had imposed any new tax, but it was because of the particular situation we were in at the moment. So that needs to be clarified.
All right. So let me try to reframe what you're saying to ensure that I correctly get everything you're saying.
Yeah.
The discussion we have had up to this point suggests that some exemptions on your medical supplies, including that attached to dialysis or used for dialysis, had been taken off, for which reason you are now having to pay more, and which would also translate into more cost for those patients who need dialysis. You are saying here that that is not the case.
Yes, that is not. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That is not the case.
All right. You are also saying that this is a one-off.
Why in this particular instance we paid. So if that's what I'm saying, that if you talk to somebody at the dialysis, they may say, "Oh, this time we paid for it," but the reason is not what is being attributed to.
So again,
that's the clarification I'm providing.
Just for the sake of clarity, so this also means that this was a one-off situation,
yes,
and that moving forward, you will not face the same challenge.
It's actually happened. I think sometime, a year or two ago, we had a similar situation. So it was a one-off. So administratively, we absorbed that cost. So we didn't pass it on to the patient.
Okay. So what happened this time for you to even consider passing on the cost?
No, we have not. That's what I'm saying, that it is a proposal from the department level. So that proposal is yet to be reviewed by management. You understand? So that's the proposal. That this is what I think I want to charge.
From what point did that proposal come? Because my point is, if there's a proposal, then it means that some shocks must have been felt for it to be even be contemplated that it ought to be passed on. So from which level did that money?
Way before this current consumer arrived, there's already been a discussion that we need to. There has to be a review. I thought that the current charges were set a couple of years ago. So even following the normal trend of the price of goods and services, we all, would agree that there has to be some review of the current tariffs. But then in terms of the specific cost for the renal service, they needed to factor in the actual cost of the consumables. And because the supply from the supply, the supply had thought and we didn't have the actual invoice, it would be difficult to, have a specific proposal. So it was when this came in, then they were able to put numbers to the proposal and they afforded. So it's actually now going through the process to come for approval, or review at management level. And if management thinks, okay, this is okay, and then to be, processed further.
How long have you been aware of this proposal that was snuck out or put out?
And I'm saying that this proposal is just, I'm saying that it's not even done the rounds to the central administration level. So this is something that is happened has not even reached the medical directors at the time that this thing came out. So that's why I was told you that somebody jumped.
So as of the time it came out, you were not aware of it?
At the time it had not reached the chief executive's office yet. So it was even the director of medical affairs. It was just at the department level. So this was a proposal from the unit. You see, there's a unit that works on that department. So from the unit, it went to the head of department. So it was at the department level. It hadn't even gotten to the director of medical affairs, who also reviewed further and then pass it on to the chief executive, and then it goes out. So that is the process. And I'm saying that it was the unit had passed it on. I'm sure somebody thought that once it had gone on, then probably it had been approved or whatever. I don't know what informed that, but that's why we are. So immediately the director of medical affairs became aware that this had happened. A directive was issued to them to pull down the notice and to revert to the old price till the necessary approval has been received from Parliament before they can go ahead.
Was this not just a reaction based on the hue and cry, the outcry by people? That is why you pulled down the notice. Because if you say it hadn't got to your office, you were not in the know, and yet a notice had been put up like this, I'm struggling to tie the loose ends.
Unfortunately, that is what happened. I can only speak to the facts. You want me to tell you the facts, and I'm saying that is what happened. And so, of course, in institutions, some of these, once you are in a human institution, people have different levels of information. Somebody, and of course, it's gone viral because this is something that would have been taken out immediately, and addressed. But because it's the era of social media, something that's what happens and it goes immediately viral. So that is why it's become a huge issue. But it is not like, and as I said, I can only speak to the facts as it happened.
All right, so that points to some administrative lapses, and I know you'll get that fixed. But my final bit to you...
So that's why we are, internally would do an internal to see what happened, because, and so, of course, some people also need to be educated as to, when, who can do what and all that. So it is part of the internal things that we will do to make sure that some of things like this do not happen again. My final bit to you, sir, right before you take leave of us, and we're grateful for your time. But so you've spoken about the other bits, in terms of the review, the cost review, for example, whether for these products or these logistics and others. It's been a number of years. There have been no increments. Are there likely to be increments anytime soon? Yeah, so we already even have a proposal in Parliament for some of the other, for review of fees and charges, which is being considered. In the case of this particular renal dialysis, at that time, a certain benchmark figure was used. Okay, and so you're looking at numbers, see whether that benchmark figure needs to be revised or not. So that is the kind of mathematical that has to be done. Okay, and then of course with the other stakeholder engagements to make sure that we are coming out with a tariff that doesn't overburden the patients and also allows us to also sustain the service.
Doc, we're grateful that you took the time to join us, and we wish you the very best, sir.
Thank you so much, man, and have a good day.
I wish you same. That is Dr. Opokuware Ampomah. He is CEO of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. When we return from our next break, we'll be getting interactive with you, taking some calls, just hearing from you what your thoughts are on the discussions we've been having here this morning. Do say, we'll be right back.